Do you know how to use the third person s in sentences like he goes, she works, it makes sense? You probably do, but do you use it correctly in a fast conversation without stopping to think or without making a mistake? That is a whole different question. Or what about have you done this versus did you do this? You studied it, you know the rule. But when someone asks you something and you have to answer fast, it just comes out wrong or it does not come out at all. And you get nervous and you think, which one was it? Have you done or did you do? Today, I'm going to tell you exactly why and more importantly, how to solve this problem. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Massey's World, where we learn a fun, easy English together. Without further ado, let's get started. So, why does this happen? I think most of us think about grammar like math. In math, you have time to calculate, you pause, you think, you figure it out, and then write your answer. But speaking is not like that. When you're in a real conversation, you're listening, thinking of what to say, choosing your words, managing your pronunciation, and watching the other person's reaction, all at the same time. There's no time to stop and think, okay, this is the third person singular, so I need to add s to the verb. Where was the verb? Oh, there it is. And by the time you remember the rule, the moment is gone. So the problem is not that you do not know the grammar. The problem is that you're trying to calculate it on the spot. And that does not work when you're speaking. So, what is the solution? Stop trying to remember grammar rules when you're speaking. Start memorizing chunks instead. A chunk is a short, ready made sentence or phrase that already has the correct grammar built in. You do not think about the rule, especially not when you're speaking. You memorize chunks at the time you're studying. You just remember the sentence. And because you have heard it so many times and you've said it so many times, it comes out automatically fast, correct, and natural. That is exactly how a native speaker uses grammar. They do not think about rules, they just remember patterns they have heard thousands of times. And after a while, they develop a gut feeling. Gut feeling, by the way, means when something just feels right or wrong to you without thinking about why. Like when you hear a sentence and your brain immediately says, no, that doesn't sound right. That is your gut feeling talking. And that is exactly what chunks build in you over time. You just need to know which chunks to memorize. Let me show you. One of the most common mistakes learners make is forgetting to add S when they talk about he, she, or it. He go, she work, it makes sense. You know it should be he goes, she works, it makes perfect sense. But it comes out wrong when you're trying to speak fast. So instead of trying to remember the rule, memorize these three chunks. He works from home, she always knows the answer, it makes perfect sense to me. Say them out loud right now. Repeat them a few times. He works from home, she always knows the answer, it makes perfect sense. These are not random sentences, they are patterns your brain can borrow every single time you talk about he, she, or it. After a few days of repeating these, the S will start coming out automatically. Not because you remembered the rule, but because your mouth already knows how it feels. Now let's talk about another example. Have you done versus did you do that? And this example is my favorite. So present perfect versus past simple. This one confuses a lot of learners, and I want to show you the easiest way to memorize it. You know the show How I Met Your Mother? There is a character called Barney, and he has one famous line he says all the time. Have you met Ted? Ted is his best buddy, his best friend, and that's it, present perfect. Have you met Ted? And here's what it means. No specific time. Just has this ever happened to you in your life before? Not when, last night, last year. Just has it ever happened to you? That's present perfect. Your chunk is have you met Ted? You can also pick one from your real life. For example, you can memorize, have you ever been to London? And speaking of that, that is something I noticed that a lot of my students make a mistake with. When they want to ask about my life in general, like have I ever visited their country, they say, did you go to London? Did you go to China? Did you go to Brazil? And I totally understand what they mean, but the more natural, more correct way to ask this is, have you ever been to China? Have you ever been to Brazil? Did you go asks about one specific trip, like did you go to China last summer? But have you ever been asked about your whole life? Has it ever happened to you at any point in your life? And that's it. That is the only difference. And your chunk to memorize is very simple. Have you ever been to Morocco? Say it every day, and slowly your ears will start to feel when that sounds right or the other one doesn't. And that is your gut feeling growing. And here's why this works so well. When you memorize a chunk, you're not just learning grammar, you're training your mouth. Think about it like learning how to ride a bike. Nobody stops and thinks, okay, now I need to balance, now I need to pedal, now I need to steer. They just ride because the body already knows. And that is what chunks do for your grammar. They move the rule from your head to your mouth, from something you calculate to something that you just do. And the more you repeat and practice your chunks out loud, the faster that happens. Speaking, not reading them in your head out loud, like a real conversation. And that's the secret key. So, how do you find your own chunks? It's actually very simple. Think about the grammar mistake that you make most often, the one that comes out wrong every single time. Then think of one real sentence from your life where you would use it correctly, something you actually want to say to someone. Write it down, say it out loud 10 times today, 10 times tomorrow, 10 times the day after. And that's it. You do not need a grammar book. You do not need a long exercise. Just one sentence said out loud every day. And after 1 week, try it in a real conversation. You will be surprised how naturally it comes out. Now let's practice together. Right now with me. I'm going to say one sentence and I want you to repeat it out loud, not in your head, out loud. Ready? He works from home. She always knows the answer. Have you ever been to Morocco? Did you see the movie last night? Good. Say those every day this week, in the shower, on the bus, before you sleep, anywhere. Just say them out loud and watch what happens to your grammar when you speak. Your mouth will start remembering, and that is exactly the goal. So tell me today, which grammar mistake do you make the most when you speak? Write it in the comments, and maybe I will make a video about it and answer your question. Stay curious, stay consistent, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.